All right, and we're live, guys. Thank you guys for joining us today. Talking about 2023 strategies in the environmental industry. Today, I got Russell Schindler, the CEO of SampleServe, with us. He's got 30 years, 35 years experience in the environmental industry. He's an excellent sailor. He told me to say that part. I have Paul Goodrow. He runs Enorin Partners, helping environmental consulting firms navigate the industry. Between the both of them, they have a combined 75 years experience in the industry. Keep in mind, you guys can ask a question in the chat at any time and we'll get to it throughout the presentation. You can also ask a question in the chat after this is done and we'll get to it. And we also have a poll in the chat as well that you guys can go to. It's going to be open for the next 3 days. So I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, thanks, Josh. 75 years of experience. That sounds like we're old, Russell. We're going to have to update our bio a bit. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I know time is precious right now. It's the holiday season, but it is also the budgeting season. And after 40 years of being in the environmental consulting engineering market, I feel your pain. I know every year my management would come to me and ask me for more revenue, more profit, figure out ways to retain employees, and also participate in some of our corporate strategies. So if you're not in the budgeting process, I'd be surprised. If you're not doing a budget, I'm sure you're in someone's budget. So these 4 topics are something that Russell and his team have been working on, and over the last few weeks has sent out several emails. You may have been a recipient of some of those emails. And it's really about how does technology help you become more efficient? And, you know, as I step back and look at my career, I guess I look at multiple times when technology was introduced into the business, but very rarely was it introduced into client-facing opportunities. It was generally introduced to the back office. It was introduced to accounting, finance systems, HR systems, and of course, the whole world of IT and remote workforce. But I think there's an opportunity now, as I'm seeing applications and I'm working with other customers, to really make technology part of your service solution, meaning that you could integrate technology now into what you deliver to customers or to clients. It no longer needs to be something that you do in the back office. There are several systems, obviously, that are helping you become more effective in doing your timesheet or submitting your expenses, or creating invoices, or tracking personnel development plans. You know, those to me are all back office solutions. And, you know, there's been a lot of pain even with those to implement. But what we want to talk about today is how do you implement client-facing digital technologies to improve your revenue, your profitability, retain employees, and participate in part of your company's digital solutions transformation.
Yeah, Paul, I was a consulting engineering employee for a long time as well before I got into the software business. And I remember about this time every year having to put together the plan for next year. So,
yeah. Well, the first thing that's asked is let's increase our revenue, right? We got to do more than we did this prior year. Regardless if you had that big project or not, you're still requested to do some more. Build more revenue. You know, 3 to 5% is a normal, you know, organic growth path for our industry. Anything more than that is probably seen as, you know, best in industry. At the same time, your company might be adding companies, which obviously brings in more revenue. But if you just look at organic growth, let's say you're an office manager, department manager, you're building your plan. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you're asked to increase your revenue by 3 to 5%. So how do you do that? Well, traditionally, you add people, right? You either add people, increase their billing rates, or their utilization, which, you know, you always get those, hey, if we increase our utilization by 1%, look how much more money we can make. Well, it's not that easy, right? I mean, that's the continuing saga. How do you find employees? How do you bring them on effectively? How do you get them to utilization? And how do you bill them out for their time? So as an alternative, you know, can you generate more revenue by integrating technology? And of course, the general theme here is that, instead of selling services that are people enabled, try selling services that are technology enabled. Meaning, can you make your services more reliant on and dependent upon technology, and maybe less so on people? Now, of course, the brains behind most consulting engineering businesses are the people, which needs to remain. But can you take work that's commoditized, or can you take work that is routine, and can you integrate digital solutions to do that work so that you're raising the level of the horsepower of the people in your organization to the work that's more challenging? So, in addition to generate more revenue, if you have a differentiated service, if you can integrate technology and offer real-time data, offer a portal where your clients can see their field data immediately, allow them to work on the data immediately upon receiving from the laboratory, stored in a cloud that's secure. Doing things like that, you'll have a differentiated product that you can sell. So we know that if we can differentiate ourselves, we can sell not only on price, but on quality. The second thing is, if you have a backlog or you're generating a backlog, you still have to convert that to revenue. And technology allows you to accelerate that conversion from backlog to sales to revenue. And what I mean is, if you're using scheduling tools, if you're deploying resources in the field, can you get multiple teams out there sharing technology to allow you to do more work in a shorter period of time? And the last thing is, there's always an opportunity to look at new commercial models in the consulting engineering market. I know some people are reluctant to go into lump sum or fixed price, but if you have a keen grasp on the scope and you have a good, supportive, reliable technology to support that, challenge the business model. T&M is a drag. T&M is a way to really burn out people. I know that. So think about other commercial models that you can use where technology actually offers the upper hand.
And I would just add to that, Paul, it's that in their last point is really the most important point, in my opinion, that if you're using technology to get work done, faster, quicker, better, but you're still using a time and materials business model, and your technology allows you to get the work done in half the time, and you're still billing by the hour, you're going to lose revenue. So converting that business model has got to be kind of simultaneous with implementing those kind of time-saving technologies. So,
right. I think the bottom line for technology and revenue is that try to figure out a way not to be people dependent on revenue generation. You'll always be dependent on people. But if you're going to shortfall your revenue, it's going to be because you don't have enough FTEs or you don't have high enough utilization. Hopefully sales are sufficient to support what you have and allows you to grow. But it really comes down to most budgets I've seen that have failed is because we haven't been able to staff enough people in the business. And so thinking about using technology as that third party, that complement to your employees and your personnel, you can try to achieve higher revenue targets. So the next part is profitability. Do more and do more of it, right? So generate more revenue and try to improve your margins. And I think this is all about reducing your cost. And a lot of indirect costs that you're all managing may be managed by yourself or may be managed by others, office expense, benefits, et cetera. Those are things that probably aren't in your project control budget, but they are. The direct expenses certainly are. And your direct expenses are basically your labor, subcontractors, and other reimbursable costs. So when it comes down to your direct cost, which is gross margin, generating gross margin, that's the building block of all consulting engineering's business. That's the base unit of profit that comes out of businesses like ours. And so thinking about your direct cost, how do you manage your direct cost? And as I said before, if your revenue is dependent on labor only, guess what? Labor costs aren't going down. Finding qualified staff is not going to become any easier. And so how do you actually do that? With either lower revenue or lower prices, how do you increase your margin? Well, again, we think there's a technology solution there. Russell will talk specifically about sample serve, but there's technology that could be integrated into your services to reduce those routine costs. So any place you look at a service delivery model, whether it's in doing groundwater investigations, collecting asbestos samples, you name it, you're going to have direct costs that can be reduced, at least the routine work, through technology.
The technology is cheaper than people. Technology works 24 hours a day. You can share technology. The technology can be used for multiple different types of tasks. Like, nobody likes to sit in the parking lot of a laboratory frantically filling out a chain of custody, 5 minutes before the lab closes and you can't read the handwriting. Technology is going to kind of eliminate a lot of that manual labor and that manual data entry. You don't have to go back to the office and type in your data when you're done for the day. So it's cheaper than people, and it works, 24 hours a day. So, there's a lot of benefits. And besides just the being able to increase your margins, it actually makes your employees a little more resilient in terms of being able to get more work done.
Right. So, in revenue, you're increasing your productivity. To enhance profit, you're really reducing your project costs. And there are numerous ways of doing that through technology, depending on what type of work you do, obviously. But the key is taking technology and bringing it from the back office and bringing it forward to your projects and bringing it forward to your customers. So the third thing is, how are you going to retain employees, right? Again, it's a challenge. In our industry, voluntary turnover is probably between 15 to 20%, depending on companies and what the culture's like in those individual organizations. It's been estimated that you lose about $100,000 per employee per departure, and that sounds like a lot of money, right? But if you think about it, you think about an employee giving you 2 weeks notice. You have 2 weeks of probably downtime. You probably have 30 to 90 to maybe 120 days to replace the person. You have another 90 days to bring someone up to speed. You're out 6 months of revenue. And so depending on what your average revenue per employee is, of course, it's going to be depending where they are in the organization, how utilized they are. It's going to be dependent upon that. But, you're losing revenue. With every employee you lose revenue, which means you lose the opportunity to convert that revenue to profit. So employee burnout, I work a lot with companies in establishing their strategic agendas. And what I found is that employee retention is really one of the biggest limiting factors that companies have to growth and profitability. And what I've learned is that burnout is not just too many hours. A lot of it is about, employees who are feeling like that they have expectations they can't reach. So they're unachievable goals and expectations. There's pressures by managers, to get work done. There's ineffective colleagues and there's ineffective tools. And what, I often think about and I tell my clients is, employees don't come to work to be ineffective. Employees come to work to be effective. Employees want to get work done. There's a lot of value and reward in accomplishing your goals when you come to work. And so for this, how does technology help? We need to provide tools for our employees that allows them to be effective. If they're effective at work, they're doing high level work, high value work. They don't feel like they're doing routine mundane work, they're going to be happier at work. And what I do know about Sample Serve is that some of our biggest advocates are those people in the field and project managers, because this tool really allows them to get work done much more effectively than pen and paper.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say, because I obviously talked to a lot of our customers, and our biggest fans are out there doing the work. They're when they leave the site, they're, other than getting the physical samples either to FedEx or the lab, all their data entry, their chain of custody, everything's already done, and that's one of the biggest things I like about it. And there's no more complaining about their penmanship, because the labels are all printed for them in hand. And as a past field technician who's actually had labs call and complain about their penmanship, myself, I'm talking about, being able to just print things and everything's legible. You don't have to worry about it. One of the things about, kind of everyone going digital, and especially young people growing up, is they're more accustomed to a keyboard than they are with pens and paper. And so being able to just type things on a keyboard, on a tablet or something like that, is really making communication a little more effective and efficient. And it eliminates, typos, and when you're having to do data entry off of handwritten stuff, which was really the problem I'm speaking about my penmanship. Apparently I write my 3s and my 5s very similarly. So, and then nobody likes to, just have to type in data. There's employees like to feel like they're doing something. They're making informed decisions. They've got some input, and being able to kind of see things and see what's going on visually at a site, allows them to kind of come up to speed faster in terms of understanding that the kind of the physical and chemical characteristics going on at a site. They're able to kind of see that stuff quickly. And the more you see, because you can see it faster, the more projects you're exposed to, the quicker your learning curve in terms of understanding kind of the physics of determining where contamination is and where it isn't. So there's a lot of benefits to the employees.
Yeah. Thanks, Russell.
Yep.
So the next slide is really about, again, I'm just reflecting on the days when the end of the year when I was asked to put together budgets, revenue, profitability, employees, and what are you doing to help us with our corporate strategies? And so, I advise customers. And so some of the corporate strategies that we've developed along the way includes workforce, talent development, of course, I mentioned that before. It also includes work around energy transition, the transition from fossil fuels to clean energy in whatever form that is. It also includes things like, sustainable infrastructure, how do companies, secure their infrastructure, whether it's utilities companies or manufacturing firms or others. Also resource scarcity, water, is obviously a big issue, but also digital solutions, right? So what is the digital transformation strategy that your company has? I assume you have one. If you don't, you're behind the times, or maybe you've already implemented it, which congratulations. But again, going back to where we started, digital solutions can be numerous. There's the back office solutions and there's the client facing solutions. And I really think that in this market, there is an opportunity to differentiate yourself in how you transform your services by incorporating and integrating digital solutions in some form. Sample Serve is one of those. There are other solutions that are out in the market, but how do you do that? How, as an office manager, department manager, or as an employee, how do you participate in your company's digital transformation strategy? What we're finding, and Russell alluded to this, is we're finding that the new employees, the ones who are newer or younger in their careers, are much more able and willing to take on technology than those who've been around for a while. So I encourage you, if you're just coming on board, convince old folks like me that digital solutions is the way to go. If you're if you're a manager and you've been around the organization for a while, be open-minded, because technology can really eliminate some of the problems and challenges you have today. Again, we've talked about some of those. How do you increase revenue without having to increase people? How do you improve your margins without, taking out every cost you can think of? How do you retain employees while they're leaving at 15 to 20% year over year? So think about your digital transformation strategy. Look at those solutions that are either in the market or maybe you've developed some internally, and figure out how to integrate them into your service package, because all your services have a place for digital solutions as well. I don't know if there are any questions. Are there any questions at this point?
Not yet, Paul. I have some questions for you at the end, though.
Oh, okay, good.
Surprise questions.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate those.
Obviously that we're here to talk about a little bit about SampleServe and our digital solution. There are a bunch of other products out there as well that can help you in different areas. But our solution is specifically for environmental sampling and reporting. It kind of closes that whole data cycle. There's a project management tool and a mobile field app for kind of planning that sampling project and then going out and implementing that sample event. And then we've got a digital chain of custody and a separate lab app for the lab to actually receive those samples. And those first three products that I just mentioned, project management tool, mobile field app, and the lab app, we're offering now at no cost, so that you can go out and get your samples delivered to the lab, and you've got all your data. You still get your data, your sample collection data like we've always had, but now you're essentially going to be able to get everything ready and then be able to do reporting. If you've got some other type of reporting methodology, you're using your AutoCAD guy or GIS, you'll still be able to do that. But we're hoping that you'll actually fall in love with our graphics and reporting like most of our customers do, and then utilize that, which we do charge a fee for the graphics and reporting. And then this whole app, this whole platform actually cuts costs and eliminates paper. There is literally a completely paperless, product that we're talking about here. Our labels that are actually printed in the field are actually polyvinyl labels, so they're totally waterproof and paperless. And then they've got QR codes, and so everything gets communicated digitally. So from that point of sample collection all the way to the reports, no one has to touch that data again. Now you can edit it in case you're one of your field people, transpose some numbers on a depth of water or something. You can go back and edit that data, but assuming it's accurate, no one has to touch it again. So it really improves your effectiveness in terms of communication and improves your efficiency. And the project management tool communicates with all the different parties simultaneously. So you're able to actually communicate with the field technician in the lab kind of simultaneously, order your bottles directly from the lab through the platform. So there's a whole bunch of services that are really going to save you a bunch of time and increase your effectiveness and efficiency. And then, as I mentioned, the data, if you type in a sample ID number in the project management tool, that goes all the way to the report graphics without anyone having to, misplace a hyphen, or maybe they don't capitalize MW or whatever it is. So the data is secure and consistent throughout the data collection process. And because sampling projects now and reporting are done so much faster, again, if you're still using time and materials billable method and you're adopting this technology, you're going to make less revenue. So you're going to have to kind of look at a different type of business model. But if you're able to get the same amount of work done in less time and less people, you're going to have a happier team. Everyone's going to be able to go home, a little bit earlier, and not have to stress about, being behind on work. So that's really kind of the whole, one of the big benefits of, using technology is that everyone's happier and the work seems to get done faster. And as I mentioned, our field technicians are our biggest fans. I routinely talk to field technicians, and, they just, one guy told me, he's like, if they quit using this, I'm going to quit. So that's and so really the next steps are to create a plan, whether it's using sample serve or some other technology that may be out there. Let's create that plan and stick with it. You know, as the comic here says, that you know, if you don't, you got to have a plan. You may deviate from the plan. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you're probably going to have to make some adjustments and when and where to use different things. But it's best to start out with a plan, because as you know, Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and I guarantee you, you know, problems happen. And so, you know, create a plan and stick. Obviously, hoping you're going to use sample serve. You can set up that project in the project management tool that we have. It's no cost. Get in there, create your project, use the field app, go out and use the field app. You can get yourself a field printer, and we'll be happy to you know, get you some labels, and then get out there and get that work done, and then, you know, get your report out the door faster as well. And then, you know, recognize that your team is looking to be effective, as Paul kind of alluded to. And, you know, everybody wants to get the work done, and they want to do a good job. No one, you know, wakes up in the morning and goes, hey, today I'm going to do a crappy job. They want to get out there and do valuable work and deliver it. And the more you can provide those tools to get them that work done, the happier your people are going to be. And then, as I mentioned several times here, you're going to have to reevaluate your business model. Time and material business models aren't going to work. I mean, obviously, there's always that instance where you just don't know the scope of work. And so time and materials has its place, but it has less and less of a place in the industry. The more work becomes commoditized, and the more you implement technology in order to save time and save labor. So that's
yeah.
Well, Russell.
I guess I just add Russell too, right? We have an Apple version, so if you have an iPad in the office, you can load it on that, and we have an Android version, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the project startup is on the internet, so you just click in and
Yep.
go to the URL and
Yep.
start setting up your project. So it's simple. It's super simple to do, and I encourage you all to at least try it out. You know, there's probably no pain in trying it out.
Yeah, average
training
training is less than 3 to 4 hours. Then, you know, most people become experts, you know, in that kind of time frame. And the training's kind of built in, so you can actually get started and then kind of train as you go. We've got little video clips along every step of the way. Just watch a video, take the next step, you know, do that next step, watch the next video. So it's actually very easy. You know, once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to get your project set up in 30 to 45 minutes. And then from that point on, you never really have to set it up again. So
yeah, one of the nice things we like to suggest people to do is just go in and upload some historical data and play around.
Right.
You can start looking at reports from previous data. We got a question here from Nick, though.
Okay.
The question is, what is a way that sample serve helps a consultant that is not obvious from the website, like a hidden gem?
That's a good question, Nick. You know, it's not obvious that you don't have to do your chain of custody. You know, that if you've ever sat and, you know, done that 3-part triplicate chain of custody, and then halfway through the chain, you realize you're writing on top of the other page that you just created, and now you can't read it. So that's, you know, and I've done that, and that's why I know, you know, you don't have to do that anymore. You are literally, when you've hit that collect sample button for the last time, you got the last sample for the day, all you have to do is hit another button, your chain of custody is done for you. So that's just not obvious. And unless you've been in the field and done it both ways, it doesn't hit you that, wow, I'm like literally done with my data entry. I just got to get the samples to either the, you know, FedEx or UPS, or I got to get them to the lab. That's all you got to do. So that's probably the part that, and I still do sampling on occasion, especially training people. And I use our app when we're doing it. And that's the part that still kind of gets me, is that I'm done. when I'm done, when I've collected that last sample and put it in the cooler, and I hit that chain of custody button, that's the part that is probably not obvious.
I would say, if I can add, I think one of the functions features is that if you invite your client to the workspace, your workspace, they have access to information as soon as it's gathered.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool, because most clients have to wait around for, hey, Nick, where's my report? Or where's the data? Did you sample that yet? What were the results on MW1? I mean, the hidden jewel to me, I deal a lot with clients, so it's, hey, if you're in my workspace, take a look. If we sampled yesterday, you're gonna get water levels, you're gonna get stabilization results. If the analyses were done yesterday and they were loaded, you're going to get the analyses on the cloud. So it seems to me like that communication with both your team and your client is one of the hidden gems as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. We've got several like oil company clients, and that's one of the things that they like about it is they don't have to call up the consultant and spend money to have them generate a quick graphic for them, so they can just go in and do it themselves.
Hey, Russell, if a company wanted to start using SampleServe today, what all would be the costs involved to just start sampling in the field by tomorrow?
So we have a method where you can actually print labels in the field using a laser jet printer. So you can actually pre-print your labels. You still have to write your name, date, and time on the label, but that allows you to bypass the field printer. I do recommend the field printer because then it comes off the printer with QR codes and all the date and time and everything already on the label with your signature and everything. But they could literally get started today. You're going to need a tablet. We've optimized for 10-inch tablets, but it could be Android or Apple. You can go to the store, download the things, get online, set up your project, and then go out and start sampling. If somebody wanted to today, and what is it, 1:30 Eastern time, they could be sampling tomorrow using our app. Because they would get in there, get everything set up, and then first thing in the morning, they could go out and use the thing. Pre-print their labels. If they want to print in the field, which again, I recommend, they'll have to get a printer. We've optimized for a Zebra printer. It's about $700-800. The tablets, Apple's like about a $400 tablet. Android's about $200. So, to get the full setup, it's you're under $1,000.
Nice. Paul, dealing with consulting with a lot of environmental engineering firms, I want to ask you the same question that we have in the chat. It's a poll. What do you think is the biggest challenge for firms going into 2023?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think 2022, it was about employees. I think, I spent my career as business development, account management for, medium to large size companies. I was always out looking for projects. I was working with customers to put together, develop, and sell client projects. 2022, it was really, we have enough projects. How do we execute it? And I think that was a staffing challenge. 2022, I think, has been a staffing challenge. I think that will continue next year. But I also think pricing is going to be a big challenge for consulting engineers, environmental consulting engineers next year. And so, I think it's inevitable that, technology will be introduced to solve both the staffing challenges that people have and the pricing challenges that people have. So technology reduces your cost, which it should reduce your prices, and it will replace the need for personnel, at least to some degree, right? It's not possible to think that consultants will be totally replaced with technology. Otherwise, it'd be an oxymoron, right? So really, if you can replace 20% of your labor with technology, I think that's probably a reasonable goal. So I think it's really about pricing and labor next year.
And I would add that during times of recession, and looks like, a lot of people are saying we're on the verge of heading into a recession. There's pressure to look for low cost alternatives, right? Everyone wants to lower the price. to get more market share, and there's pressure to kind of compete on price. But when you use technology, you can actually do both. You could still lower your price and increase your profit margins at the same time. So that's really the benefit of technology, and the kind of thing that you're going to have to look for as you're thinking about 2023 is that the pressure to provide low cost alternatives.
Right. Okay. Last question going in here, Russell. I want to ask you: do you have any specific like case studies that you could think of where a crew was using like the field app in the field, and like do you have anything on the tip of your tongue about how much they saved in time?
Yeah, as I mentioned, field people love our app the most. I mean, as a group of people, they're our biggest fans. In one instance I can think of in particular, is a site down in Indianapolis, that big, large site. It was like a property that had been demolished, and it was growing up, I don't know, 80 different monitoring wells in this tall grass. And it was normally a 2-day project just to go out and find they had 2 or 3 people on site. It was a 2-day project every time they did it in the past, because they spent a lot of time trying to find these wells based on just paper maps. And using our app, it got them within 2 feet of the monitoring well. They're all flush mount wells, by the way. And so with 2-3 foot tall grass and flush mount wells, you had to literally step on the well to find it. And again, it was just a big vacant land. And I actually went down there and kind of trained them, so I was familiar with this property. And now it's a 1-day project. So what used to be a 2-day project for them to go out and gauge all these wells is now turned into a 1-day project. So that's a significant time savings, and it just made the employees feel like they're getting a lot more done rather than walking around trying to find a metal plate on the ground, so in tall grass.
Right. Nice. Okay, we're going to wrap it up on that one. Remember, anybody can go on sampleserve.com. You can either schedule a demo to get a more in-depth conversation on this. You can also start an account at no cost, upload some data, get started. You could be sampling the field by tomorrow. Take our poll. It's the links inside this webinar. And thank you guys for coming today. Make sure you share this with your friends too. You can copy this link and share it with your friends. Anybody can watch this. This is going to be permanently here forever for anybody to come and watch later on. So thank you, Russell. Thank you, Paul. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Josh.